We enter into our last week on The Few, talking about the importance of our Christian community, and then we will move into next week talking about our next table, the many, the church, and what Jesus called us to do in the church. But today specifically, we're going to talk about food. It's just too appropriate, right? We live in a culture that's addicted to speed, convenience, comfort, sameness, and we want results really fast. I'm currently on a diet. I'm okay. I just don't want to jiggle as much when I move around and stuff. It's fine. And one of the things I've done, you've probably heard me talk about it before previously, is that I've done keto a few times. And keto is kind of like weight loss speed run. And what I realized is because you basically lose a bunch of water weight when you stop consuming carbohydrates and stuff. But after about 2 months, I get tired of eating cheese and ground beef. And so I need something that's a little bit more sustainable. So instead, I'm doing a calorie deficit diet. And there are benefits to that. It's at least more sustainable, but there are times where I have to be a little bit more disciplined and it's not super fun. Last night, Brianna and I were sitting on the couch watching a TV show, and I remembered that we had H-E-B cheese balls in the pantry, and so obviously, we're going to eat H-E-B cheese balls. And so I look at the package, and I know how many I can have for how many calories. And so as I'm eating them, I'm counting them, 1, 2, 3. And it kind of kills the whole fun of eating junk food, when you're counting each one. So I got to 30, and I was okay, I know how many calories that is. And I'm almost should I have even eaten them? I don't even care at this point. It just feels so structured. But the reality is okay, well, I have boundaries. It's keeping me within my boundaries I know I can be within, so I can still enjoy it, even if it's a little uncomfortable and a little inconvenient. And if you think about your health, if all you ever eat is fast food, things that are quick and easy and predictable, your body begins to weaken over time. Does anybody remember that documentary, Super Size Me? It came out 2004. So that dude, he ate McDonald's 3 meals a day for 30 days. And I'm not hating on McDonald's. Brianna and I get McDonald's every Sunday. It's convenient. And the one off 336 in Conroe is ooh, they do a good job. I don't know what they're doing, but they're great. Either way, at the end of that month, the results that he found were he gained 24.5 pounds in 30 days. His cholesterol skyrocketed. He experienced liver dysfunction. His doctor said his liver was turning into pate because of all the salt and all the preservatives he was consuming. He suffered mood swings, depression, headaches, lethargy, and he even felt he was in active addiction because he was I crave French fries, but I'm so sick of eating McDonald's. He's it's this weird thing of no, I want it so badly, but as I'm eating it, I'm actively disgusted with myself. He's I was in full-on food addiction. And then finally, his sex drive diminished significantly. Just saying. So these things that feel good and they might satisfy a craving, but they're not going to build strength or endurance. A healthy diet requires variety, intentional discomfort, consistency. Some meals you love more than others, but your body becomes stronger and healthy when you consume things that actually nourish your body, right? And that's the truth when it comes to our soul as well. The 3 points I want to talk about today is that when we come to the community table is diverse. And that's the point. Like a balanced diet, it includes foods from different categories, Christian community brings people together from different backgrounds, different ages, different perspectives. The community table is sometimes uncomfortable, and that's how we grow. Just like eating vegetables or drinking water instead of soda, some parts of community feel uncomfortable, but ultimately, it's what we need. And then finally, the community table is lifelong, and that's where the fruit is. Just as you don't get healthy from one good meal, unfortunately, right? It stinks. You don't get healthy from one good meal. Spiritual formation is a slow cook over time. It's long, it's steady, it's intentional, but it produces lasting fruit. So today, I want to challenge us. I want us to stop reaching for spiritual fast food, for us to pull up a chair at the community table, the slow, diverse, and sometimes uncomfortable, but ultimately life-giving table where God refines us for his kingdom and his glory. Amen? Amen. Let's start with point 1. We're going to start in Ephesians 2:14 through 22. It says, "For Christ himself has brought us peace. He united Jews and Gentiles into one people when, in his own body on the cross, he broke down the wall of hostility that separated us. He did this by ending the system of law with its commandments and regulations. He made peace between Jews and Gentiles by creating in himself one new people from two groups." It says Jews and Gentiles, but like we can make this relevant to modern culture, men and women, Republican and Democrat, rich and poor, whatever socioeconomic level you want to put at. God has separated every barrier that we put on ourselves. Isn't that interesting? Like even as Christians, we have categories for everything. It's like denominations, like socioeconomic level. Oh, well, like, do you believe in once saved, always saved? Or like, when we take the Eucharist, is it really Christ's blood? Like, we want to create these dividing lines, and Christ came and said, stop. I have unified all of you. Stop trying to seek division between one another. Because when we sit down at a table, a community table with other Christians, we should be sitting down at a table that looks diverse, with people from different backgrounds. A successful entrepreneur needs to sit with somebody who's barely making rent. A single person needs to sit with a couple who's living out their vows in front of them. A college student needs to sit with a retired correctional officer who's been in the trenches of life and has actually lived out their faith in the midst of trials. That's how the body of Christ sharpens and shapes us. If we stay in this echo chamber and we only hear our own voice, it's like your body only eating comfort foods, right? It's not good for you. I grew up in the South. Boy, do I love pinto beans and cornbread. I would eat pinto beans and cornbread and collard greens, especially if they're like cooked right. Oh, every day, every day. I love them so much. But I would just get jigglier every day if that's all I ever ate. So sometimes I have to eat things that are good for me. Sometimes I have to eat cucumbers. They're all right. All these TikTok videos of like, oh my gosh, this cucumber salad, like it's cucumbers, okay? Like, I don't care what soy sauce or like whatever you put on cucumbers next to a box of McDonald's fries. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. They're not as good. They're just not. But they don't nourish me either. God's table is diverse on purpose because it brings people together to challenge each other's preferences and to broaden each other's perspectives. The second point is the community table is uncomfortable. This is where we'll spend most of our time today. It'll be so fun. Accountability and challenge and disagreements are not signs of failure in Christian community. They're signs that God is refining you. So when you find yourself in Christian community and you bump up against conflict, that isn't, oh, I shouldn't be here. Oh, they shouldn't be here. That's God challenging your perspective. Culture says surround yourself with people who affirm you, but the gospel says surround yourself with people who will refine you. It's like eating greens when you'd rather have fries, like eating cucumbers when you'd rather have fries. It's uncomfortable, but ultimately it's good for you. I was in a band years ago, and I won't tell you the name because, yes, you could find pictures of me online that I don't want you to see. I was in a band years ago, and we were, again, not living rightly with the Lord, but we loved Jesus, and we would go play these shows in people's basements. We played a show in Savannah, Georgia one time in a basement that was used to smuggle people into Shanghai people. It was weird. We would go to secular venues like the Hard Rock in Atlanta, and we would play these shows for people. And yes, we were like headbanging and playing loud music, but at the end of every show, we gave an altar call. And it felt real weird. And please, I'm going to heavily stereotype some people real quick, but when you're standing in a room with people with a bunch of nose rings, tattoos, and drug charges, talking about Jesus feels real uncomfortable. But every single show, no matter where we were, we would give an altar call because we felt like we were kind of this bridge between like Christians and like people who would never have anything to do with Christians. We didn't look like Christians. We didn't look like stereotypical church-going boys, but like we wanted people to know that like they still mattered. People who would never darken the door of a church, we wanted to let them know that Jesus still loved them. And so we were planning on playing this large show. I think maybe it was the Hard Rock in Atlanta. And our guitarist, we were sitting down with our manager and we were talking through like what the set's going to be like and that we're going to do the altar call at the end. And our guitarist was like, who was a believer, and I believe still is, he was like, like the whole altar call thing, like at the Hard Rock in Atlanta, like that seems kind of like weird. Like, and we were like, yeah, but dude, that's what we're doing. Like we're going to do it. And his response was, I didn't come here to spread the gospel. I just want to have fun. And many of you will find that there are people willing to be present in Christian community, but they're not willing to be active. They're here, but they're hiding. They'll put a smile on their face, but they're cringing underneath. You know, they'll sit and smile, but there's no way they're going to allow their pride to be exposed. They cover it in layers. They cover defensiveness to avoid correction. They cover layers of justification to excuse behavior. They're going to cover their layers of success to distract from weakness. They're going to cover it with layers of knowledge to sound sharp but like remain untouched. They're going to have layers of achievement or busyness so that they never have to slow down long enough to address those things they know that the Spirit is addressing with them. I want to address those people. When you find yourself under obligation or inspiration or this undeniable pull from the Spirit to be in Christian community, when you find yourself being invited to church events or to church or to small group or to the golf course or to just have coffee with somebody, and you sit down with them and they start asking questions like, how are you? How's your heart? Or here's like a real Christian, what is God doing in your life? And you feel yourself recoil from that. I want to tell you this in gentleness because I'm not here to shame you. That is your flesh attempting to cut you off from the nourishment that your body needs to survive. That is you recoiling from something that your shadow person, your flesh is saying, no. Because if we address that, that's going to unravel all of this stuff that I've already planned out for you. All of this detriment that I'm trying to keep you in, this slavery that I'm trying to keep you in, this bondage to that addiction I'm trying to keep you in. If we address those things, I'm no longer going to have a hold on you. So please, recoil. Give a quick answer and move on. Give a shallow response and smile. Play it off. Because here's the thing. We enter that verse, Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. How many weekends in the deer lease is that justified? How many girls' weekends in Nashville has that been used to justify? You know, like we use that as like a, come on, like Brianna, I need to go play D&D with Donnie and the guys because like iron sharpens iron, okay? I have to. I need to go to the gun range because iron sharpens iron, okay? Like, this isn't for me, okay? I need to go be sharpened. You know, we want, and Christian fellowship is great, obviously. Like, we need to be around each other and be with each other. But the reality is, if you're telling me that iron sharpens iron, iron can't be sharpened without friction. Ask Melvin. Where's Melvin at? Is Melvin here? Melvin. Ask Melvin. Melvin owns a knife sharpening business. If you give Melvin your knife to get sharpened, he doesn't just like hold it and go, all right. Like, he doesn't take a towel and like rub it and shine it. He's like, oh man, I don't know what's happening. You have to add some friction in order to sharpen it. And the most intense instances of sharpening, you're removing material from the knife. I have a fillet knife that my grandmother gave me. It's about that long, and I think it used to be about that wide. It's about that wide now. It looks like a needle. I don't know if Bree's ever seen it. It's like it looks like a needle because my grandfather had a whetstone, and he would sharpen his knives by hand. And over years, it is now just this like long dagger ice pick looking thing. It has been refined. And just like our spiritual lives, when you come up against Christian community and you start entering into Christian community, you might feel a little bit of that friction. You might feel as though like there's things that are being challenged in you, things that are being taken off of you. Maybe that's what God is trying to do to you. Maybe there are things in you that need to be sharpened and need to be removed from your life if you want to grow. Your flesh will retreat, it'll deflect. Again, it gives that nice shallow answer just to move on, but your flesh is trying to cut you off from the food that your soul needs. It's trying to keep you comfortable, and comfort is the enemy of growth. Growth happens where friction meets gentleness and where truth meets love. Like, please hear me, like friction does not mean cruelty. People, you're not supposed to be mean. But when people look you in the eyes and they challenge you, you have a choice to make. It's like, are you gonna let them see that wound? Remember we talked last week about, hey, me too. The table isn't a place for hiding, it's a place for healing. When you come into Christian fellowship, it's not just about going to the gun range and talking about the weather and like, oh, whatever you're doing next weekend. What is God doing in our lives? Why are we here otherwise? Like, what's the purpose? What makes us different? But when we come in, we may have to be challenged to peel back some of those layers. We may have to lay down some of those defenses or those justifications for our behavior, that need to impress. Let someone see the real you. Only when you bring your true self to the table can God begin to sharpen, shape, and strengthen you into what he wants you to be. So when you feel that urge to shut down, when people are leaning into you and attempting to partner with you in that vulnerable state of spiritual refinement, don't shut down. Lean in. Let that sharpening happen. Because again, iron sharpening iron creates friction, but it also creates strength. It's not just to remove things from you, it's to sharpen you, right? We're not just sharpening knives to remove material. There's a purpose behind it. We want that knife to be sharp. At the table, you're going to experience encouragement, yeah, but you're going to experience challenge, and you're going to be confronted with perspectives that rub against your assumptions. You're going to be asked questions that press deeper than your surface level answers, and that friction's not there to embarrass you or to annoy you. It's there to strengthen you. You know, the early church, they gathered around tables with Jews and Gentiles, rich people, poor people, men, women, young and old. Those were not easy conversations to have as they navigated what this whole Jesus salvation thing is all about. But they were the friction that formed the spiritual strength and unity, a unity that has led our church to thrive over the centuries. Amen? If they weren't willing to have those hard conversations thousands of years ago, where would we be? And unity in the church matters more now than ever. And I'm not a fear monger, please. Like, if you know me deeply, you know that I'm not a fear monger. But I think this bears saying. It needs saying. Unity matters now because the world will not cheer for us. They will celebrate Buddhist holidays and Hindu statues, and they'll make room for every belief system until they see the cross. The moment the cross is lifted high, the world becomes combative. The moment the 10 Commandments are placed outside of a government building, they're vandalized. The moment a coach kneels to pray with his players before a game, the school board steps in and shuts him down. That's not a fake story. That happened in the high school I graduated in 4 years ago. There is division in the world, but God has prepared a table for us in the midst of our enemies. At the table, we're not fighting each other. We're fighting for each other. We seek unity because the world outside of us is not. But inside this body, we are one. We are the same thing. We want the same thing, to see Jesus lifted high and to see lives changed, right? Stop wasting your energy fighting the family. Seek unity. Lean into hard conversations. Stay at the table, because at this table, God makes us strong, and he prepares us to stand in a world that would rather see us silenced. The world teaches us to avoid conflict. Like that is like the hallmark of good relationship is lack of conflict, right? I think if you think that's true and you're not married yet, please change your mind before you decide to walk down the aisle, because you will not have a good marriage without conflict. You won't have good relationships without conflict. I mean, like, that's what they're built upon, because we all are meant to be refined. Like, do we not agree? Like, Brianna and I have always said, like, what is the point of marriage? For us to make one another look more like Jesus. Not to fit into each other's schedules, not to become my hiking buddy, like whatever you think it may be. Or like, I'm not in a relationship with Corey and Bo and Eric because like, oh, like they tell me I'm so smart and like we're both best friends, yada, yada. No, like we're in relationship with each other because I want them to help me look more like Jesus. And when they see spots in me that need to be refined, I want them to have the wherewithal and the authority to say, hey, I think you need to address this. But the world would teach us to avoid that conflict. We want to stay in that echo chamber, right? Build tables with people who look like us, who sound like us, who vote like us. That's not a kingdom table. A kingdom table is where we embrace the friction as a part of that life and a part of that process, because that's how dull blades become sharp, is with friction. Now, I'll be honest. Not every person you're in community with is going to be the most fun to be around. Not every meal you have to eat on a diet is going to be your favorite meal. sometimes you're going to be in conflict with people. Sometimes you're going to be in community with people who are just like, I don't like you. It's just the reality of life, right? To be honest, like there's just those people that you meet and you're just like, you talk to them for 5 minutes and you're like, I don't like you. I don't know what it is. I just don't like you. And I remember being in school and teaching for 8.5 years. There are certain kids that I had that I was just like, there's nothing wrong with you, but I just don't like you. I just don't. It's like, I don't know if it's just the way they spoke or like, I don't know. It's just like something and I'm just like, I just don't like you. I don't know. I love you, like as a person. I see the value of you as a human, but I just don't like you. And what I realized is that like when you don't like somebody, especially when it's like unjustified, like they've done nothing other than like maybe be like slightly annoying. When you don't like somebody, everything they do becomes heightened. And I would tell like this kid that I don't particularly like they would come into my classroom and they would do one thing. And I'm like, rude. Annoying. Know-it-all. Try hard. Lazy. Even if they're like on the opposite ends of the spectrum, it's like I would see everything and be super critical of them. And I'm just like, just don't like you. And at one point, I remember probably like within the second or third year of teaching, I had this kid who I just didn't like. They just annoyed me. Like they weren't my favorite person. And I had to have a parent conference with them. And I don't even remember why. Like, it wasn't like they were in trouble. I think maybe it was just like a general parent conference, or maybe it was like a meet the teacher night or something like that. And their parent came to meet the teacher night, and I started talking to them. And this particular kid, like, he was kind of like a, what you would call like a pick-me, right? Am I using that faith? Pick-me kid? They vowed for attention. Like, everything was like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And it was just like super annoying to me. And they were constantly like, in the middle of my lesson, they're like talking to other kids in the middle of my lesson, and I'm just like, bro, I'm the main thing right now. Can you listen for like 10 minutes? And so like those were a couple of the things that annoyed me about this kid. And so I met his mom, and when I met his mom and started talking to his mom, we're talking about school and like what we're going to talk about for the year, but then we start getting a little bit deeper, and we start talking about the fact that like he doesn't have a dad. And not only does he not have a dad, his mom works past the time that he gets home from school. Oftentimes, like, he's asleep by the time she gets home. So the majority of his day is spent alone. And then it starts clicking with me. I go, no wonder he socializes so much. This is the only time he gets to talk to somebody. No wonder he's interrupting my lesson. This is his one crucial moment to connect with somebody else. Otherwise, he's at home by himself scrolling his phone or staring at the walls. And what I realized is that these biases I have built up in me about people, if I would take a moment to get to know them and to understand maybe like, well, why do they do that? Why do they act like that? Why do they talk like that? Why do they think that way? And you spend just a moment sitting down across from them over a cup of coffee, over a dinner, over a conference, over a conversation in the parking garage, and you say, oh, I get it. God will start refining those biases out of you, and you start understanding that like they're just people like you. You start sitting down at tables with people who don't immediately appeal to you or don't immediately think the same way you do, and you start realizing like, oh, they grew up this way, or they grew up in this type of church, and so they have this feeling, or they had this type of trauma, or they had this type of situation in life that caused them to think this way. Oh. And it begins to open your heart to a point of empathy to where it's like less and less you meet people that you just don't like, because you start to understand the swath that God has created humanity with. People of different colors, different races, different ethnic backgrounds, people who come from different socioeconomic levels and convictions and everything. And you start seeing like, I need these people because these people refine me. Mitch is just this one dude who grew up in this one very specific area and had this very specific upbringing, and faith is very different. And so when we come together, we don't clash because we're different. We join together and we celebrate each other's differences and the different perspectives that we have from God and the way that God has affected our lives and spoken to us. And then we celebrate that unity because we open each other's eyes to see a wider view of who God is and what he can do, right? Amen? We don't come up and go, oh, you talk with an accent, so, I don't want to talk. Or, oh, you work that kind of job. Oh, you voted that way. No, like, allow people to expand your mind into seeing the way that God, if the testimony for your life is important, can you not see how like God can work so many miracles in other people's lives from different backgrounds? It's like you're not just God's one experiment on earth, right? He has changed the lives of everyone in this room. Is it not a beautiful testimony to see how God, one God, has had a hand in all of our lives, and that brings us together under one purpose? Is that not a beautiful thing to celebrate? Beautiful. And so there's no shortcut to spiritual maturity. It's found in a long, faithful community, right? And small groups are great, but my expectation is not for everybody in here to like be in a small group. Please join a small group. I want you to join a small group. Please be in a small group. It's good for you. It will help the health of our church. It will help you, I promise you. You don't have to be in a small group, because what my ultimate goal is not for everybody to just boost the attendance numbers of our small groups. What my heart's desire is that everyone in this room throughout the week would have a space where they can sit down, they can show the wounds and be comfortable enough to do so and be met with encouragement and empathy. I don't care if you're going to go to a Bible study and learn more stuff. I don't care how much you know. I need to know that you're open to growing and being refined. What is that song? You're refined. I'm not going to sing, because that's Jan's going to clip that, and it's going to be on the internet forever, so I'm not going to sing. But I think about that song all the time. Man, it's like, it's one of those, there's even a meme on YouTube of this guy singing it. He's like, you're refined, I want to be close to you. I want to be tried by fire, purified. And he's like, ooh, tried by fire, I don't know about all that. Like, I think that our flesh wants to seek that comfort of like, ooh, small groups, ooh, going to dinner with that person, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't care. I want to be refined. And I don't care if it's by fire. Put me in uncomfortable situations. Give me uncomfortable problems to deal with. Give me uncomfortable problems to handle from our church, because you know what that means for me? I'm growing. I don't want to be stagnant. I don't want to be the same I was 5 years ago. Lord knows, make me better than I was yesterday. Refine me right now. I don't care, Lord. Put me in the midst of those communities. Do it now. Do not resist that. Because when you seek comfort, I promise you, there's so many testimonies of like, the one that comes to mind right now is Bob Marley. Bob Marley, growing up in Kingston, Jamaica, I believe, grew up from nothing. Growing up in the like impoverished area of Jamaica, becomes this millionaire. And then he, on his deathbed, I believe they said something about like, what is your last words? Or maybe this is just misquoted and it's just one of those things people put on the internet. But he even said like, money like has brought me nothing. It has not brought me happiness. It's like you can gain all of these things that you put on your bucket list, your wish list of like, man, I want this. I can tell you from personal experience, from people who I know very closely who are related to me, they have gained so many of these things they've wanted, and their hearts are in turmoil because they have found themselves recoiling themselves away from growth. They have felt that sharpening happen, and they push away from it, and they say, no, I want comfort. I don't want to be refined. Please don't resist that sharpening. Any of y'all like gumbo? I'm about to puff these Cajuns up right now. Okay, let me just brag on these Cajuns real quick. When I moved to Texas, I had gumbo. Please forgive me. I had only ever had like Zatarain's gumbo. Okay, please forgive me. When I moved to Texas, and I can't remember if it was Zach or Trish, one of you told me about like making roux for gumbo, right? And I was like, okay. And so if you've never made a roux, it's just flour and fat, right? And then you've got your Holy Trinity. You got your onion, you got your celery, and you got your bell pepper, right? And so you got these simple things, very simple things. And so they're telling me about how, like, okay, if you're going to do your roux, you need to, like, you got to be there, okay? You can't, like, turn a roux on and, like, go watch Days of Our Lives, okay? You have to stand here. You have to stand here. I even had a gentleman tell me one time, he's like, you want to make a roux, you need to crack that beer, keep it right there, because you're going to need that. You can't leave to get the beer, okay? So leave it right there. And so you got to stand at the stove, and when you're making a roux, you just got to keep stirring, right? You just got to keep stirring. And it goes from, like, blonde to peanut butter, and if you're me, to burnt really quickly. And so you start over, and you go back and you go, okay, to blonde, you got to keep stirring, to peanut butter, to chocolate, and then let me tell you a little magic that happens. There are few smells, very few smells, more pleasing to God than when that Trinity hits that hot roux. I was like, I'm not kidding you. The first time I made gumbo, making a roux from scratch, and I was in my kitchen by myself, and I threw those in and I started stirring it. I about fell out. I was at like a Benny Hinn service. I said, oh, it's hit me. The smell of bell pepper, onions, and celery hitting hot roux is one of the most I don't know why Yankee Candle hasn't made that one yet. Like, hot roux. Like, that needs to be just light it up and just, oh, yes, here it comes, yes. There are few things that smell better than fresh vegetables hitting hot roux. But you can't walk away from the gumbo. You have to take your time walking it up to where it needs to be, right? That's spiritual formation. That's life and community. Don't laugh. Come on, that's real. That's a solid metaphor right there, okay? I know all of you Cajuns are going home today and be like, cancel lunch plans, we're making gumbo. Come on, like, it takes patience, it takes intention, and as far as our spiritual life is concerned, it takes faith to take what seems very simple, flour, fat, vegetables, prayer, community. These very simple things come together to create something that is so rich and complex. And you add the ingredients, relationship, scriptures, accountability, prayer. You add these ingredients, and it all simmers together over time. It becomes something that you could not have made in a hurry. The beauty of gumbo also is that it's meant to be shared. It's hard to make a personal gumbo, you know. You make gumbo, you make a big old pot, and it's meant to be shared with those around you. It's not meant to be microwaved for convenience or consumption in isolation. The saddest meals in my life were sitting in my classroom, microwaving a cafe steamer that I just choked down in 10 minutes before my students got back. It was done quickly. It was done purely a means to meet an end or whatever. And it was done so soullessly. And it was done in isolation. If that's your faith, if your faith is just a microwave meal every day of like, just give me one of those, whatever. Okay, I did my Bible app, whatever. It can't sustain you. It's soulless. It's lifeless. Our community is meant to be slow cooked. Our refinement is meant to be slow cooked. Our growth is meant to be slow cooked over time, over a lifetime. Relationships. My best friend, Nate, we have been best friends for 10 years now, about 10 years, because we've been married for 10 years, so almost 10 years. And like, we haven't hung out in a few months because, you know, we both are busy. He's a youth pastor, and like, we just didn't have time to hang out. And we went camping in Fredericksburg a couple weeks ago. And man, I picked him up, he got in the car, and it was just, we're back to being two idiots driving down the road, right? Because like, we have built that over time, right? We've invested time in each other. I've seen 4 of his children born. He's seen my child born. He's the godfather to my child. He worked with Bree for years. We've been through ups and downs, bought homes together, and like, we have invested in each other. So I have that person I can call and say, hey, I'm not doing okay. I have that person who I can go to and say, hey, we need some help. I have that person that like, no matter what's going on, Nate's like, I'm on my way. We can't expect that if we don't invest the time. If we're just microwaving community, if we're just showing up to church every Sunday going, man, I don't know what's going on. I just don't have community. It's like, go have coffee with somebody. Turn around and talk to somebody. When you leave here, just stop and talk to somebody. Ask them, hey, do you want to go to lunch? And I know that's going to be super uncomfortable for all you introverts, but like, that's how it starts. That's how community starts. I don't remember how Corey and Kelsey and we all just went to lunch together one day or something. I don't remember. Yeah, something like that. And it's blossomed into a beautiful friendship. But there has to be intention on your part as well. We can't just sit around going, well, nobody's going to talk to me. It's like, well, not if you look mopey and you're just standing there like this. Yeah, like, probably not. Go invite somebody to lunch. Go hang out with somebody. But more importantly than that, health, both physically and spiritually, takes time, and it takes consistency, and it takes patience. You can't rush gumbo, and you can't rush spiritual maturity. It's slow cooked over a lifetime of showing up, of sharing meals, serving at church events together, staying at the table, even when it's messy or inconvenient or uncomfortable. And what is the result? A rich, full life of fruit that overflows into others. We don't just sit at the table to be filled, we sit to be formed. The early church didn't gather because it was easy or efficient. They gathered because Jesus made them family, and the table is where God refines you. It's where he challenges your assumptions, and he calls you to love those who are different, and he shapes you into the image of his son. So when you leave here, don't go look for the perfect group that fits all of your interests. Look for opportunities to sit with people who look different than you, that act different than you, that think differently than you. Join church events, serve with others, open your home, but stay at the table, because growth happens over time with diverse voices and through uncomfortable moments that refine us. I'm going to close with John 17:20 through 23. Jesus says, I am praying not only for these disciples, but also for all who will ever believe in me through their message. I pray that they will all be one, just as you and I are one, and you are in me, Father, and I am in you. And may they be in us so that the world will believe you sent me. The point of our community is so that that world who looks at us, that wants to keep us silent, we do not react out of anger. We don't react out of hate, but we allow our community and our unity and our diversity to be a testimony to the world that we can love in the midst of disunity, in the midst of craziness, in the midst of disagreement. We look to Jesus as the center, not to ourselves. I have given them the glory that you gave me so that we may be one as we are one. I am in them and they are in me. May they experience such perfect unity that the world will know that you sent me and that you love them as much as you love me.